Hello there, and welcome to our session on sleeping bags. In essence, how to stay warm in winter conditions. I'm going to look here at different types of sleeping bags, and other little hints and tips as to how, if you are caught in extreme cold conditions, how you can survive and stay warm. Okay, so in essence, there are two main types of sleeping bags. What I'm talking about here when I talk about sleeping bags are what we call mummy-shaped sleeping bags. A bit wide at the top, going down to the point at your feet, and usually with a hood over your head. You might still consider sleeping bags to be those nice rectangular ones you may have had as a child at sleepovers. I really want to focus on what we consider a standard camping sleeping bag now. So we have duck down sleeping bags, or down sleeping bags, should I say. They're filled with either duck or goose feathers. That's the down. They are usually incredibly warm. They pack down really small. However, the limitations are that if they get wet, they are pretty useless. They lose their thermal efficiency. Synthetic bags, however, made with man-made fibres, they'll stay warm or have at least some better thermal efficiency when they're damp and wet, but they tend to have a larger pack size. Both bags require air with the within the fibres within the fill to actually create the insulation. So you need to pad them out. Okay, so those are the differences and some of the pros and cons. Let's look at the different systems that I have myself. Okay, so I'm going to start looking at the sleep systems we could put in place for keeping nice and warm on a camp, particularly in winter. So I've sort of lined up all of my parts that form a sleep system, as you call it. I'm using that term, which sounds a little bit over-egging it. You'd normally just say it was a sleeping bag, but actually it's not just a sleeping bag. You need to know how to stay warm, particularly in cold climates, and a sleeping bag on its own will not do the job. So, going from right to left or left to right, depending on which way you're looking at it, I've got a little rab silk sleeping bag liner, okay, weighs nothing. This is wonderful, okay. A couple of uses for this. One, you go into this camp in really hot climes, okay, 3 weeks camping in Japan, silk liner, that's all you needed, perfect. However, other use for winter is putting it inside another sleeping bag to make it a bit warmer, so it's worth keeping to one side just in case we need it. Then moving up here, in terms of sleeping bags, I'll just move these to one side. We've got a small synthetic sleeping bag. Lovely, once again, I'd say summer in the UK is probably where I want to use this one. So this has got a comfort rating of between 14 and 10 degrees. So anything below 10 degrees, it's going to be a bit nippy. It's also getting a bit old, this one, but it's a lovely sleeping bag. It can go down to -1 as an extreme. I wouldn't want to try that, but lovely and small, lovely and lightweight, really great for a summer expedition, but that's about it. Now I've got my next two sleeping bags. This one, okay, lovely sleeping bag I found. It's a down sleeping bag, so it's goose feather, and it packs down lovely and small. So this is what I take on expeditions mainly. Because it's down, it's actually quite warm. Okay, so it can go down to, doesn't actually say on the ratings on here, but I've had it down to probably about -1, -2, and I've had an okay night's sleep. I wouldn't say perfect, but an okay night's sleep with one of these. With down, you need to store it in an extended bag so the feathers can expand out. But that's got a really lovely small pack size. Then moving up in size, probably not great for expedition, but I have taken it on expedition. This one, comfort down to -5, and I think at the extreme on this one, somewhere in the region of -11. Okay, but it's a lot larger and a lot heavier. Great if I'm throwing in the back of a car or just driving to a campsite, but not probably great for actually carrying it too far with me. It has been taken on expeditions, but at that point you are carrying an awful lot more weight anyway for the temperature and climates you're going to be in. Now, talking about them on their own is one thing. Okay, we can increase the heat a little bit, I suppose, make them last a bit by adding a liner to them. But the best thing to do to get more comfort out of a sleeping bag in cold climates is looking at what you're sleeping on. So here are three of my options. Okay, option one is an actual, in essence, an inflatable mat, not self-inflating mat, an inflatable one. So you have to blow into this to blow up. It's like a really lightweight airbed, really small, really lightweight, great for spring, summer, autumn trips, great for expeditions. This is what I always carry on expeditions if it's going to be an okay temperature. But not particularly great for heat, because what tends to happen is it's just two thin layers of plastic and a bit of air in between. You can lose a lot of heat through that. Okay, so okay, lightweight is the bonus, but not great for heat transfer. Then next one, classic. Okay, it's a self-inflating mat. So as a self-inflating mat, you unroll it, undo the valve, and there's foam in it, expands and sucks some air into it. Maybe blow a little bit at the end, seal it up, and what happens is you laid on that, you've got foam, you've got pockets of air, so lots of individual pockets of air, which will insulate you an awful lot more, so you'll stay warmer on a self-inflating mat than just an inflatable. Okay, so whatever happens, you're getting off the ground, so it's going to have an improved thermal efficiency there. Now, this is where I'm cheating somewhat. I've not been a user of a roll mat for many a year now. I prefer the two early things I see. However, if I really want a comfortable, warm night's sleep, this is my wife's yoga mat. Okay, much thicker, firmer, and got more air pockets in than a standard roll mat. A bit heavier, a bit bulkier. I really wouldn't take this on expedition, but I will have a very, very warm night's sleep on one of these. So, worth considering. I still have fond memories of roll mats, but they do take up an awful lot more space, particularly on expedition, so I tend to avoid them nowadays. Or, if you are using a roll mat on expedition, you can actually consider using it as an inner liner to your entire rucksack to pad out the rucksack, rather than rolling up and sticking it on the outside where it can get wet, or where it makes you look a bit more like a sailor. As one of my friends calls it, you look like a Christmas tree if you're wandering around with things dangling off your rucksack. Okay, so I'm going to get these bits out now, and we'll have another look at them again, so you get to see a little bit more detail. Okay, here I am with all of my sleeping bags and roll mat type devices laid out for us to have a closer look at. Some of the bits I talked about earlier was my inflatable mat, the really lightweight one that sits really nice and small. You can see how thin the material is in this. Okay, it is very much like a lilo, halfway pack's even smaller, but it takes about 10 blows through a valve here, and I forget to translate, I won't finish filling it up for you, but it gives you a sense that you have to put a bit of work into it, but it's a really comfortable night's sleep, but it's not great if it's really cold. Now, in terms of my sleeping bags, this is my down sleeping bag. I've got it out of this bag, I'm on expedition, I'm not going to jump straight into it. Okay, what you need to do, particularly with a down bag, but any rucksack, is give it get a bit of fill, get some air into it. Okay, the more air you get into a sleeping bag, the warmer it's going to be. So air will, if you've got trapped air in there, it will keep the heat in. Okay, so the more air you can get into your sleeping bag, the better. Okay, so a bit of a pumping up there. You can see already that looks a lot more padded. Same to be fair, my synthetic sleeping bag. This is the warmer one that I showed you a bit ago. Get a bit of air into it. It's been in a bag for a while, that one. Okay, the more air in it, the warmer it's going to be. Now, talking a little bit about keeping really warm, and I'm sure you all grew up with traditional sort of more wooden, cottony sleeping bags, the nice rectangles. Rubbish for when we want to get a winter camping. What we're looking for is a mummy sleeping bag. So it's narrower at the end, it's not got as much space at the end, so because your body generally goes to a point with your feet. That's going to keep you warmer. Then around the head, you've got a hood. Really important. Obviously, you can say wear a hat at night. Yeah, if it's going to be really cold, I'd wear a hat anyway. But a hood goes around you. You've then got baffles. There's a couple of different drawstrings here that'll pull the bit around your shoulders nice and tight, the bit around your chin nice and tight. So actually what tends to happen is all that's sticking out your sleeping bag is probably your nose and maybe your eyes. Okay, and if that's how close in your sleeping bag you are, amazingly, you're going to stay a lot warmer because if you're breathing in and out your sleeping bag, you're filling the sleeping bag and all the air in there with your breath, which is going to be warmer. So that's a bit of a bonus. That's really important. Now, if you are in the point where you're using the extreme range of your sleeping bags, you've gone past the comfort limit and you're into the extreme limit, don't ever plan to do that. Okay, it happens by accident where you're out and about and the temperature drops lower than you're expecting. But you should have the right kit for the expedition you're going on and the trip you're going on. But if you think you're going to be in that extreme range, extra layers. When I start looking at my kit that I carry on expedition in terms of like spare clothes and these are my spare clothes and a coat and a jacket and stuff in there. In there is my thermals. For winter conditions, I'll always have thermals. I wear thermals at bed. Yeah, I want to stay nice and warm. I've got a hat on as well, staying really nice and warm. I'm as far off the ground as I can on my mat. Great. But you've got to start thinking about, it's not about having a good night's sleep. Okay, it's about surviving the night if you're into that extreme range. So, sleeping, hands in your pits, curled up in a ball, okay? So you are quite literally keeping your body heat in as much as you can inside your sleeping bag. Okay, you're not going to have a comfortable night's sleep, but at least you'll wake up in the morning and you'll be able to carry on with your day. Okay, so when you're in the extreme range, think about what you can do extra to stay warm and stay as comfortable as possible. But you probably won't have a comfortable night's sleep. That's what they call it, a comfort range and an extreme range. Try and avoid it if you can. So that is just a few little hints and tips around sleeping bags. So you can put a liner in there, that'll help. All about keeping you warm. You see how much this will pad down, you see. You can hear the air coming out of it. Goes down to practically nothing. But for expeditions, that's where you want your stuff sacks with your straps to put it nice and tight so it takes up less space in your rucksack. Anyway, that is sleeping bags and sleep systems. Take care. So, as we mentioned just there, it's important to plan to stay within the comfort range of your sleeping bags and only use the extreme range in extreme conditions when you're maybe in more of an emergency or if the temperature is lower than you expect. But key things to remember: wear layers, okay, a hat, allow your sleeping bag to get filled in, so pump it up with air. Add a sleeping bag liner, will add an extra layer of warmth into it. The thicker the roll mat, the more air pockets in, the more firm and efficient it's going to be, and the more off the ground you are, so the warmer you'll be. And if all else fails, curl up in a ball. Okay. If you do find yourself in the extreme range, it's not about a good night's sleep, it's about getting through to the morning. Okay, and those are some of the hints and tips that will help you to do that. Obviously, you're not going to find yourself in that situation, but it's always best to be prepared. Thank you.